This is one of the most anticipated days on the cycling calendar. It's an event which has gone on to become the symbol of a region and of a people who show enthusiasm for cycling that is rarely matched. It's the Ronde van Vlaanderen 2014, the Tour of Flanders to you and I. It's a veritable festival of the bicycle, and here we are in Oudenaarde. Previous winners of this race in the last decade, it's been dominated by two names, Fabian Cancellara and Tom Boonen. Boonen a 3 times winner, Cancellara taking it twice. De Volder racing here today also with 2 wins. 14th Sunday of each year, this happens. The marketplace in Bruges fills with cycling fans very early on in the morning, and come rain or shine, they're there for the start of the Tour of Flanders. The monuments on show, the city spruced up, visitors from all over the world, but it's all about 25 teams on 2 wheels fighting it out against just about everything. The elements are going to be an issue today. We've had a bit of wind and the rain as well. Not quite the sunny day that saw 16,000 amateurs ride the route in a sportive yesterday, 4,000 of which took on the full 259 kilometres. Well, it's the second monument of the season, Vlaanderen's Mooiste, the Flanders finest, and we're on the UCI World Tour. One of the toughest challenges in world sport, this. Not many other races on the planet that can create such an atmosphere. So all ready to present you the jewel in the crown of Flemish classics. It will redefine the career of any rider who's lucky enough to win it. And at the end of the day, there'll be somebody who is very, very happy they started the day here indeed. So sign-in was a big occasion despite the spots of rain that were falling. Antonio Giocattoli, well, some riders perhaps realising they might never experiencing something similar again. The Italian Pro Continental team lining up. Orica Green Edge are here, and some of them GoProing the experience for our later, surely, YouTube viewing pleasure. Brad Wiggins is here. Not supposed to be here a few days ago, but he has been selected to ride for Team Sky. Ian Stannard pulling out injured. Sylvain Chavanel, time ticking for him in this race, 34 years of age now. Plenty going on for BMC, Greg van Avermaet, and of course Taylor Phinney. Marcus Burkhardt, another name to throw into the hat as well. Netap Endura with national champions from the Czech Republic. And of course, the superstars of Omega Pharma Quickstep. Look down their list, anybody in that list capable of winning this race. You would say they're there for Nicky Terpstra and Tom Boonen, but you never know. Lars Boom is here as well for Team Belkin from just across the border. The Netherlands team in support today of Sepp van Marken. And Gerard Ciolek, if he can hang on, he's faster than many in a small group. Former winner of the first monument of the year, just over 12 months ago, Milan San Remo. Look out for Jens Kukulera. Bernie Eisel riding for Team Sky. He's going to be an important man in the challenge put down by Geraint Thomas and Edvard Boasson-Hagen. And there is Eddie Boss, the former Norwegian champion, lining up for Sky. And he's been showing decent form. Posh shoes as ever for Dave Miller. Last season for him, last Tour of Flanders as well. Johan van Summeren lined up with his flowing long locks. Man who's had monument success previously as well over in France. And listen to the cheer for the Lotto team. The working class boys here at the Race of the People. Former winner, 2 years on the run, Stijn de Volder today supposed to be riding for Fabian Cancellara. But if he has an option or a chance out front, you just never know. Aforementioned Greg van Avermaet in good form at the minute. Pipped at the final post by Stannard in Omloop Het Nieuwsblad. As Luca Paolini, another man who many are tipping for a good result here, signs in for Katusha as well. To the big three though, Peter Sagan, the young pretender yet to win a monument, riding for Cannondale, the Slovakian champion, but in great form after he won the E3 Harelbeke last week. Tom Boonen, has he recovered from his broken hand? We shall see. He's been riding yet again without mitts on. It's that left hand of his that might have a few bandages on. He signs in as one of the favourites. Looked okay to us. Fabian Cancellara, winner 12 months ago, can make history today. He can join that select band of riders to have won this race on 3 occasions. Remember, the man we saw before, Bonen, aiming to become the man who's won it more than anybody. Sepp van Marke, another man yet to win those really, really big races. He is a former winner of Omloop Het Nieuwsblad. He has pedigree, and he also has plenty of form as well. So Bruges to Oudenaarde, 3 years after the route overhaul. There have been slight changes for 2014. The result is a much more unrelenting finale in terms of the hills that the riders will encounter. The first 200 kilometres will tell us who's out or who's in at the race before the Oude Kwaremont is climbed the second of 3 times in the day. There's the Paardenberg, Koppenberg now just 45 k's from the line, the closest it's ever been to the end of the race. 17 Hellingen, 6 sections of pavé, 259 kilometres in total for this 2014 Tour of Flanders. Out we go to the course. 11 men in the break. There's been all sorts happening this morning. Crashes all over the place. A few bad bits of news to tell you about. Abandons, first of all, for Luke Durbridge, who's gone to hospital. He has no fractures, apparently, which is good news. Martin Elmiger's gone as well. And Johan van Summeren, he's had to abandon after he hit a spectator who strayed into the middle of the race. Well, we did have 11 out there in the break, 10 in the minute, 2 of which are brothers. Wesley and Raymond Crader are out there in front. 1 for Garmin and, of course, 1 for Wanty Group Gorbert. Wanty's the only team represented with 2 riders. James van Lanschot is there with them. Top Tour of Flanders, as you'd expect, always represented here with Jelle Valais. Katusha have a presence. They have Alexander Kuczynski. Roman Zangl is there for Cofidis, Belgian rider who really loves riding in these races at home. Lampre, they were desperate to get in the break from the off. The team in the pink and blue there. Andrea Palini's the man in there, as hopefully our camera shot's going to pan away and avoid the comfort break being taken by young Raymond Crader. Davide Apollonia's had a problem. He's had a puncture. We haven't seen him in the group here at the minute, even though it's reported on race radio that he is back in the group. Lotto, presence as well. Stig Brooks, the man at the front on your screen. He's in his first season as a professional, riding his first ever Tour of Flanders. And he, like the rest of those 10 men in the break, are 6 minutes and 5 seconds ahead. A whopping 172 kilometres to go. And for this long stint this afternoon, it's great to be joined by a former Monument winner, Paris-Roubaix man from 2004, Magnus Bagstad. Magnus, good afternoon.
Afternoon. Welcome
along. And 10 guys in the break. 6 minutes and 5. There's not too much to worry about for the favourites at the moment.
No, certainly not. I mean, there's an awful long way to go to the end of this race, and we haven't even gotten to the proper climbs yet. So I think we can calmly say that the favourites will be starting to ride, or at least put their teams to start bringing this back. And you know, looking at certainly BMC and Garmin Sharp, they're in a very good position with the man up in the break each. Same thing for Katusha, who, you know, I've got a couple of strong guys in here. Thinking Paolini has been looking really good this spring, and I reckon he's going to be right up there. So yeah, interesting race coming up, that's for sure.
Plenty of interesting things to come. Garmin already with bad news. I have to tell you that Johan van Summeren hit a spectator, had to abandon. We've had Luke Durbridge off to hospital. Thankfully, no fractures for him. He's conscious, he's sitting up, and he's, we hope, watching the race. Martin Elmiger, 35 years of age, one of the most experienced men in the peloton for IAM Cycling, who already had bad news on the eve of the race, with Heinrich Hausler having to pull out their leader through gastroenteritis. They're led by Sylvain Chavanel here, but a man such as Martin Elmiger is a big miss in their team.
Yeah, I think it is a big miss, but I mean, they're a strong team, and I think all they need is just that little bit of luck and someone actually taking the race by the scruff of the neck and getting, you know, taking charge of the team as such. And you know, when a sort of an outright leader, as Elmiger is, you know, ends up crashing, that's a perfect opportunity for someone to say, you know what, I'm feeling really good today, I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take the chance and go for it. So we'll see what happens with those guys.
Well, one man who tried to get in the break for IM Cycling was Alexis Saramontins. It was pretty crazy trying to form that break early on today, Magnus. 45 kilometres per hour that first hour. They had a bit of wind behind from the sea. They were coming in from Bruges up towards what they call the Flemish Ardennes, which is this area where we race, where all the climbs are. We're around the town of Oudenaarde, where the Tour of Flanders Museum is curated by Freddie Martins down the road. But in that frantic first hour, you had those crashes. You see Movistar riders in the ditch, Belkin riders hit the floor. We hear that Geraint Thomas has been on the ground already. He's okay and riding in the peloton. There's been so much going on.
Well, you know, if you get what I like to call a proper start of a Tour of Flanders or Paris-Roubaix, certainly, you know, Tour of Flanders, it takes an hour and a half before the break actually goes away and settles in. And, you know, that's what we're seeing now. They've done almost 100 kilometers of racing, and there just isn't, you know, it's not a big time gap like we used to see, and that just shows that the guys are actually very keen on racing, making sure that, you know, each team gets a rider up in the breakaway, and trying to sort of get an upper hand on the other sort of major teams, if you will. So yeah, it's certainly a very fast start, and as you can see, Omega Pharma, Quickstep, Cannondale, Trek Factory Racing having to basically do their work and show that, you know, they are the clear favourites for this race today.
Well, we'll run through who we think are going to be the runners and riders, the big favourites for this, a little later on today. 6 minutes and 3. This is the longest advantage that they've had so far, those out in front. Remember, it is a 259-kilometre race. We've seen races such as E3, Harelbeke with the same sort of climbs, Dwars door Vlaanderen, a bit less climbing, but still plenty of cobbles. All these warm-up races take place in the last 2-3 weeks. The difference here, Magnus, is the distance, surely.
Well, the distance is, you know, you're adding easily 60 kilometers onto the race of, you know, the sort of warm-up races, as you say. There's also that fact that they put the climbs much closer to the finish, and they tend to cram them in a very short space of time as well. Whereas, you know, E3, there's almost, you know, 20 kilometers of flat road, and, you know, into the finish line. Although, you know, the climbs are still very selective, and they still break up the peloton, but not quite like they do here.
Well, we're into the province of West Flanders now. Here's Fabien Cancellara wearing number 1 on his back. This is the time in the race when he can afford to perhaps slightly switch off. Not too much happening at the minute. Go back to his team car, have a chat, get some extra drinks, some extra food, and again with the distance, perhaps have a little check on the mechanics of his bike and make sure his race number's on properly, make sure his radio's working. Of course, he wants to hear the orders. Remember, this is World Tour, this is race radios. This is the time to sort any problems you have out, Magnus. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, once the break is settled down and gone up the road, and it's not too stressful down the peloton, people tend to take a bit less risks, and you know, the crashes tend to happen when everyone is on the limit. You're riding on the very edge of the road to try and get some kind of shelter from a bit of crosswind maybe, but now that shouldn't be a problem. And like you said, the radio, which they are obviously struggling with a little bit at this point, Cancellara is going back to get that, because once you get to the business end of it, that radio is vital, not only for the information in terms of you know, the racing and tactics, but safety points, everything happens through that radio. And I'm still a fan of having a couple of radios in each team, and I know there's this big debate, and probably a little bit less nowadays than there has been, but I still prefer to have the radio, and I think the radio should be available in all sort of top-end levels of racing, just so you can you know, you can have a little bit of a backup, get the information that you require without calling the team car up into the middle of the peloton, or having to drop back and do things like this.
Well, nothing you do in the Tour of Flanders gets unseen.
Oh, no.
We estimate around 800,000 to 1 million people on the side of the road today. This is the national sporting event of Belgium. We go through the back roads of rural Flanders. It's the Flemish-speaking area of the country. For those of you not familiar, of course, we have Flemish and French-speaking areas of Belgium, Flanders and Wallonia. And, of course, the local heroes, the likes of Tom Bonen, looking to do their best. Problem still for Fabien Cancellara, but best negotiated out of the way of the ample road furniture that there is on the side of the roads in Belgium. It is a feature of Belgium racing. Bad roads, dodgy roundabouts, strange 90-degree corners. You're going to see it all a little later on today. Remember, we're heading to the first of 17 climbs, pardon me. The ordered categorised climbs, we should say, because we've had a good look at the parkour over the last 24 hours or so since we arrived yesterday morning, and it really is a rolling part of the world. And you get to this part of Belgium, you really don't expect the countryside to be like it is. You think Belgium, you think pan flat, but it's not.
No, it's well, the first part of today's race is flat, and it is very, very flat. And then once you go past the first feed station of today's race, then it starts getting a bit lumpier. So once we're getting past Oudenaarde the first time, and that's when it starts to really become very, very hilly indeed. And when we say hilly, we're talking, you know, kilometre, 1,200 meters, maybe long climbs, but they are you know, upwards of 15 up to 22% for Koppenberg. So it's just really, really steep and very, very challenging, and a lot of the times it's on cobblestones, because when they laid the surface on these climbs, they were actually too steep for them to lay tarmac on, and that's why they went with stones.
Well, it's funny, some of the climbs even had the tarmac ripped up. I think it's the case of the Koppenberg. In fact, they had the tarmac ripped up. They put cobbles in because a local farmer thought it might be an interesting bit of road to the Tour of Flanders. He called the organisers up. This is back in the 1970s, I think it was, with the Koppenberg now. And yeah, it was suddenly included in the race route.
And what an inclusion as well. I mean, it's provided enough crazy racing and incidents over the years, and I know after, I think it was Jesper Skibby that went down on Koppenberg, and I think his bike got driven over by a team class. We got another crash. Paolini.
Oh, bike problem for Paolini.
Yeah, just dropped a chain there.
Well, Luca Paolini dressed for it today. He's got the leg warmers on, oh dear, and he doesn't like how his bike's looking. Now then, a bike change this early in the race for Luca Paolini. How's that going to affect him, because he is one of the main men for today?
It shouldn't be too big a problem. Obviously, you got your race bike, and you want your race bike to be. There's always that little bit of something that you feel. He's ridden his other bike a number of times, and you know, probably raced other races on it, but you get that special bike for these races, and all of a sudden, you know, you get that, there's something special about this. I think it just clipped the wheel there and went down, so I think it was actually his own fault, to be honest.
Well, he wasn't happy. We had a Marcel Kittel-esque bike toss there that we saw from Tirreno Adriatico not so long ago. But again, with 164.9 kilometres to go, we haven't reached the first climb yet. We haven't reached the real part of the Tour of Flanders yet. This is all about acquiring distance, letting the morning break go, settling into the racing. It's better at happening now than in 100 kilometres time.
Oh, most definitely so, and you know, he'll be able to sort of draft the team cars a little bit and get back into the race without any major problem. It didn't look like it was a heavy crash either, so he shouldn't be hampered by that when you know, when we actually get to the racing part of it.
157.8 kilometres to go. We've had the first 100 Ks of warm-up, let's say. The morning break has gone. But, Magnus, where do we begin in our quest to predict the unpredictable? This race, well, I guess we should start with the three most talked-about favourites. Last year's winner, of course, Fabian Cancellara. Three-time champion Tom Bonen, who's looking to become the man who's won this race more than anybody with a fourth victory today. Cancellara at the same stroke trying to equal him, as is Steyn de Volder, who's nobody's really talking about, because of course he's supposed to be working for Cancellara. We shall see. And Peter Sagan as well. Last time, three-time winner Bonen was sent to hospital after 19 kilometres, had a fall, broke a bone, and he was racing, well, from his hospital bed, let's say. He was watching the race from there. Sagan in the green, we saw briefly there, the Slovakian, 59 victories at just 24 years of age in his career. Still looking for that first monument win, though. He did take his biggest cobbled one-day win just 10 days ago in E3 Harelbeek on these same roads. It was a shorter distance. They call it a mini Flanders. And Cancellara comes into this with the attitude that sport is sport, and it has to be won. It's a job to be done for him. Yes, he's going to enjoy his day, but he has come here to take the victory. Hasn't been winning lately, but Magnus, he's got a knack of really performing big on the big days. Of those three, who do you see as being the main man?
Well, I certainly think Sagan is going to be very dangerous in today's race. I struggle to see past him. He's climbing well, he's sprinting phenomenally well, and with all of that, you know, it's going to be one of those days where, depending on if the big guns start sort of cancelling each other out, and we might get a surprise winner, and the surprise winner may very well be Stein de Volder. I think if he's riding for Cancellara, he's going to have to go on the attack to cause Boonen, Sagan and the rest to actually chase, to bring him back, and bringing back Stein de Volder is a hard job. And with that, you know, if they don't do that, then all of a sudden Stein de Volder rides away with a victory. I mean, there's so many of these guys that we can start talking about, but mentioning Cancellara not having won so far this year, not really been sort of mentioned even in too many different places.
He's looked in decent form though. I think in E3 he was quite unlucky, wasn't he? There was a bit of a crash that went on, and he was doing all the chasing himself.
Yeah, he certainly was. I mean, he's looking like he's riding very strongly, but with Cancellara not winning and not showing that he's on super form, I wonder whether that's actually conscious from his side. He's shown that he's there or thereabouts, but he's not on that, you know, phenomenal Cancellara type of riding that we have seen in the past so many times, and whether people then start questioning his capabilities a little bit at this point in the year. But I think he's certainly going to be a man to be reckoned with today.
Sagan, do you think he has what it takes to do it? Does he have that increased tactical knowledge now? A lot of people were saying that, yes, of course, his team's not as strong as the others, and the suggestion is that he's going to leave his current team at the end of the year, or indeed that his team might even be about to fold. We shall see. But despite not having the big men working for him, we must say that he has a good man working for him today, Oscar Gatto. And a funny story that he was trying to give some goodwill out to Gatto earlier on this week, wasn't he, in the 3 days of the Pana?
He was, yeah.
He was trying to lead him out for a win and give Gatto a bit of a win. Remember, Gatto, as we see, Zdeněk Štýbal, one of the second-tier favourites today, having a bit of a mechanical. But Gatto won Tour of Flanders last year. He would be, if racing in a different team, one of the guys we'd be talking about in that second tier. So he's a very good man to have working for you. What did happen the other day in Depana? They were sprinting in, they were going in after a very, very hard stage. Sagan actually tried to apply the brakes just as they crossed the line to try and let his teammate go and take the win ahead of him. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work, did it?
It didn't quite. It didn't pull the brake hard enough.
Sagan ended up taking the win, but I think the gesture would have gone down well, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Gatto would have appreciated that, and you know, it was still good for the morale of the team that they got 1-2 in that first stage. When it comes to Sagan, I think personally that he's chasing that first big monument in such a way that it's becoming. He's not prepared to sacrifice the race, and you have to basically be willing to sacrifice the race to win it. So sometimes you have to play tactics that cool and that sort of almost in a way where you really don't care about the outcome of the race. Obviously you do, but that's the kind of that's what you have to put across, that you don't really care whether that break goes or whether that guy's attacking or not. You know, you just sit there and then let other people then hit the panic button and start chasing it down. And I'm not sure whether Sagan is prepared to do that. And I think in this race today, that's what it's going to come down to: is he cool enough, and is he willing to race for a third or fourth or fifth place, and just hope that someone else brings back whoever's attacked. And then obviously if they do, then he's in the prime position. There's hardly anyone in this field today who's going to beat him. Should he come into a small group sprint or even a bigger group sprint, there's no one out there who's willing
now
to.
Then, this is not good news. Problems earlier on. Luke Durbridge went down and had a crash. We told you that he's abandoned the race. We've seen as well problems for Johan Le Bon. Such a shame. He started renting a house in the area, wanted to live and train like the Flandrians. He was on the ground. So was Sepp van Marken. Now that's an interesting man to go down, because he is one of the guys who was starting to talk about, and this was awful news earlier on. We really do hope that the lady who was hit is okay. We were told that an elderly lady was hit by Johan van Summeren. Both were taken off the hospital. We cross our fingers and hope for the best for both of them. The lady stepping out into the middle of the road. and Van Summeren unfortunately crashing into her. So this race so far has not been without incident. It never usually is, this Tour of Flanders, but we certainly don't want those sorts of incidents with spectators getting hit and getting hurt. Remember, there are close to 1 million people on the roads today. It is the sporting event in this region each year. People go crazy for it. Unless you've been to the event, you really don't get a feel for the size of it. But it's big news, Magnus.
Well, it certainly is big news, and I've seen it happen a couple of times in the past, and it's never good. But the problem is with so many spectators, and a lot of spectators who come out just because there's a big something happening and not really aware of cycling. And I mean, these guys, they use every millimetre of any rideable surface that is available to them. So you think you might be standing off the road, but if that road piece of whatever you're standing on is flat enough and hard enough for a rider to ride on, they are going to use it. So you need to be well clear of the road and well, you know, stand on grass, and ideally off that as well to be safe. We see it in the Tour every year. There's the same problem there every single day, and certainly in one-day races, like we touched on earlier, the guys are willing to take the risks, and you have to take the risks to get yourself up there and stay in the race and stay you know, where in the action of it. So with that, you know, the guys take more risks, spectators come along and they're not aware of it, and that's when we have all these issues.
5 minutes and 34, we're heading to the first climb of the day, Eau de Quaremont. This is where the Tour of Flanders proper will start. Before it does start, a third of those big three favourites we talked about was Tom Bonen. He's had a hand injury. He said he had tears in his eyes when he was riding in Harelbeke last week. I'm not sure whether that was tongue-in-cheek. This is the head-in for the Eau de Quaremont. And just before we go into there, quick word on Bonen's chances. Do you think he's up, though, or do you think he's a tier below those two?
No, I think he's going to be ready for it. He's had an awful lot of problems lately, both family problems and obviously that crash. But I think he'll be ready. He'll put that pain to side, and as I've heard as saying, you know, pain is just weakness leaving the body. So I think that's kind of the approach that Tom will have to take today.
It's a big prize at the end of it for Tom Bonen. He can write his name into the greatest Tour of Flanders riders history section, and it'll be all on his own. Yeah,
and that's certainly something worth fighting for and going through in a bit of pain for.
Here we go then, Eau de Quaremont. This is where the Tour of Flanders proper starts. It is 2.2 kilometres long, maximum gradient of 11.6. 1.5 kilometres of this climb are cobbled. It's an interesting one in that it's quite different than the rest of the climbs in the Tour of Flanders. It's the longest one, steepest as you see it, around 11% there. Often described as the odd one out around here. It's not short and steep and decisive. This one is just going to grind you down. Yeah, I mean, 11.6% is still steep enough on the steepest part. But yeah, there's just this drag up, and it gets a little bit steeper and a little bit steeper, and all of a sudden, round about now, you hit the cobblestones, and that's where it really kicks up. But the hardest part about Eau de Quaremont is not actually the climb and riding up here through this little part, and then you go through the village. And that's when you get another 1.5 kilometres of cobblestones, and that really does hurt you quite badly. So you get over the climb here, and if you're really going for it, it's borderline when you can actually go on the big chain ring. Yeah. For me, it was always a bit over the top. You try to save your legs here, ride as intelligent, as clever as possible, try and save the energy, and just as you come in through town, change up to the big ring, and that's where you hit it. And if we're looking at the E3 prize, when Geraint Thomas and Peter Sagan actually just managed to get with Geraint Thomas when Geraint put the hammer down across the flat section of cobblestones up there, I mean, that blew the whole race wide open. And so that's where I think we'll see a big move up on the final time up the Eau de Quaremont, and that's, I reckon, race selection. This is the real classic season. Look at all the people. Look at the Lion of Flanders being waved right in front of the faces of the riders. It's noisy, it is crazy. There's a few pints of the old amber nectar have already gone down by this time. Frites in the air, everything fried. There's a big smell around. They'd started with that already by sort of 8:30 when we got here this morning. So, yeah.
It's certainly a big party atmosphere, and
as you can see as well, they come from all over the world. The Aussie fans are there as well. They've got the Australian team represented. Daryl Impey, the South African rider, riding for them. Wanty were the two riders at the front. Of course, they are Van Lanschot and Wesley Crader. These cobbles fairly well maintained compared to quite some of the other climbs.
Yeah, certainly up through the village here, and then when you get out onto the flats, the flatter section, or falls flat as I like to call it, that's where it gets a little bit rougher. But yeah, up the steep part of the climb, quite rough, and then through town it's almost like okay, we better make it looking nice in the village, and then as soon as they leave the village, and they kind of forgotten to do that bit, and it turns proper cobbles again. Kaczynski on the front then, going through the village.
Katusha rider, riding most probably for Luca Paolini today. Alexis Sartovic is a fast man, but not the sort of man that's going to hang on to the end, we feel. Alexander Kristoff's an interesting name for Katusha. He won Milan-San Remo. He's safely in this peloton at the minute, and they've got a good two-pronged attack, really, as we start to look at the rest of the second-tier favourites now. We've mentioned the three big names. Look at this. There's loads of this going on today.
This is just Belgian racing, though. You got to, like you said, you take the little cuts and sort of different road selections, whatever is possible to ride on that's going to get you an advantage. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does, as we can clearly see. But it's a part of the world where if you go racing here as a young aspiring rider, you will be ready for just about anything that the world of cycling can ever throw at you after that. So if you make it here in Belgium, you can make it anywhere.
130.7 kilometres to go in the race. Trek Factory Racing, Omega Pharma Quick-Step, Katusha and Cannondale all near the front. We've seen some Sky Riders up there as well, which suggests that we've seen Brad Wiggins in good form. It certainly suggests that Geraint Thomas is feeling better as well. Time for the Wolfenberg for the breakaway. It's just 645 metres long. No cobbles here.
But the cobbles come very, very shortly after those, so that'll make life interesting as well.
We've got the Kert Gate, which comes afterwards, which is a small cobbled section.
Yeah, the Kert Gate is well, I wouldn't say it's a small cobbled section. It's you know, you've got an 800-metre section, and then you turn on to a 2.5-kilometre section as well. So it turns out to be quite a tough one.
Hanging on at the back for Wanty, Group Gobert. James Van Lanschot. He's been in a couple of the Classics breakaways. I remember back to Omlot Het Nieuwsblad, I think it was. He was out there. This is the peloton. Just look at the people on the roads. Again, very different to the 24 degrees and sunshine we had yesterday. It's remarkably cooler. There's a chance of rain, but that's not going to get in anybody's way. They're out on the side of the roads, and this is a chance for people to take the gutter where there's no crowd there.
No, there wasn't any, and that's just the Eichenberg. On the top of the Eichenberg is you got these tarmac sections on the side of the cobblestones just as you get to the top and turn out onto the main road, and we only have a couple of kilometers of normal road here on the big road, and then we turn off it onto a narrow section, drop down, and then start climbing the Wolvenberg, which the steepest part of that one is 17.3%. So it's certainly a tough enough climb. And then as you get up to the top, watching these guys here now in the breakaway, you get onto Ruiterstraat, and that is cobblestones.
It is the Ruiterstraat then. Peloton 4 minutes and 13 seconds behind. Really are into the big business now, the Tour of Flanders. Morning break is hanging out there quite nicely at the minute. We've gone from 11 to 10 riders, then briefly to 9, back up to 10 again with Daryl Impey getting on the back. And Wanty, the team that are the best represented. 2 riders there. And looking at them for the overall, you have to say there are maybe 3 names that jump out at you. They are Bjorn Leukemans, Frederik Vukkelen and Mirko Selvaggi, but none of which are in the top tier of favourites.
No, not really as such, I wouldn't say. But, you know, you never know, really.
It could be one of those days, we said right at the start, where everybody just watches each other. The tactics for each are going to be absolutely fascinating in this race, and which we've, describing the different favourites, tried to give you a bit of an overview of what could happen. But the great thing about this racing is it's so unpredictable, anything can happen. Yeah,
I mean, it is these races, like we said, you know, they are very unpredictable, and anything can happen, and we've seen already with the crashes that we've had that and the punctures, and you puncture in a bad moment and you don't get back on, or you get back on right at the bottom of the climb and you struggle, and you know, before you know it, you're on to the next cobblestone section, and it just makes it very difficult to deal with all these things.
50 metres of cobbles coming up for those behind. That's not one of the classified cobbled sections, by the way, but our host broadcasters very much in tune with the geography. It's the great thing about this part of the world. You go through Volklichen, a lot of these climbs, a lot of these cobbled sections are used, and they overlap into different races. We've seen previews already this spring. We've had the Udequarment the other week in E3 Harelbeke. We've had the Teyenberg in quite a few races. We had that in the first race of the season in Omloop Nieuwsblad. It's not as if these riders, even the riders riding their first Ronde, have never been on these roads before.
No, certainly not. You know, most of these races are well, most of the climbs and sections of cobblestones are done in a number of races, and yeah, as we've seen, a lot of the teams come up here as well, and just really has. They've spent time here. They've been wrecking the course. They've been checking out which direction do we actually come onto these climbs on when we do the Tour of Flanders, because it might be different to when you race the E3 or the Waregem or whatever it might be. So just familiarising yourself with it is absolute key.
A Wolvenberg graphic up there. 17% now for the peloton. Not one of the cobble climbs. Our next cobble climb comes at the Molenberg. But as Magnus has already said, at the top of the Wolvenberg here, we're talking cobbles, flat cobbles, and cobbles that aren't necessarily in the best maintained condition.
No, I mean, the cobblestone section through Martyrs, the way I remembered it was quite rough, but drove over it this morning actually on the way here and it looks like they've actually gone out and really maintained it well, and it's actually looking a lot easier. Obviously I haven't ridden it yet, but it looked a lot easier than what I remembered it to be.
Maybe you just your mind. They always say it was harder in my day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was always harder in my day, and obviously it is a different thing when you're on your bike as well. You don't feel it as well, the vibrations quite as well in the car.
Jimson Getzo in problems there for MTN Quebec, the first ever African Pro Continental squad. They have the German rider Gerald Ciolek riding for them, winner of Milan-San Remo last year. Interesting that many of the big guys are choosing that this is the moment. They're going to stay at the front here. Luca Paolini was one of them.
Yeah, it's key that you're up there. Svein Tuft having an issue there. Looks like a flat rear wheel.
Former Canadian national time trial champion Svein Tuft. He's a big, strong guy. He's one of these guys who, if you're riding in a Grand Tour stage, he'll ride on the front and bring the breakaway back on his own.
Yeah, he's, I mean, very strong time trialist as well. So, you know, he's a good man to have with you.
Very much in the Bert Grabsch mode. Now, this is the Kergate. 2.65 kilometers long. And as you can see, just look at what the hands and the positions that everybody's riding on. Most riding on the top, some on the hubs. And as well, when you're riding on the cobbles, you want to get the weight firmly on the bike, don't you? You don't want to lose any traction, certainly when you're going uphill.
Certainly when you're going uphill, yeah. I find that, you know, moving myself slightly further forward on my saddle and sitting on the top of it made my weight more central on the bike, and which means the bike was kind of pivoting underneath me a little bit easier. But everyone has got different ways of riding. You can see some guys are turning in massive gears and just grinding their way through over the cobbles. Other guys, they ride it with a very high cadence. The only thing is when you ride a high cadence is that your bike tends to slide underneath you a lot, and it doesn't feel like it's you're in control of the bike. But if you get past that sensation and get used to that sensation, it tends to be a more effective way of riding it. And certainly, should you have any problems, anything happening in front of you, slowing down the, you know, having a low cadence and you're riding a big gear, it's got to be very difficult to get the bike up and going again.
Orica Green Edge having a rare good moment at the front here with Daryl Impey. I tell you what, they'll be in touch with their tyre representatives this week because they've had umpteen flats already. I'm not sure which tyres they're running. It's probably better. We won't want to embarrass them in front of everybody watching, but they have not been good today.
No, they haven't been good, but unfortunately sometimes you get a bad batch of tyres or a batch of tyres that haven't actually cured properly, and with that you end up with more punctures than you should do, really. And I've unfortunately gone through seasons like that as well, where just the tyres are too fresh. They haven't set and lied around for long enough to the rubber to harden up.
Yellow Valets there for Topsport Vlaanderen. That's Raymond Crader, Stig Brooks, Neopro, and Andrea Palini for Lampre Merida. Now then, Lampre Merida, we haven't seen him today, and I'll mention him now because the way he's been racing recently, we haven't seen him towards the end either. Pipo Pozzado, does he have a chance?
Looking at the recent races, I don't think it's going to be a massive feature towards the end of this race. You never know though, but unfortunately, yeah, he's underperformed quite dramatically this year, and it's not nice because Pozzado is such a class act on the bike. He does, when he really gets himself going well, then he's a man to be reckoned with on just about any kind of circuit.
And he's got a good man working for him today as well, in the shape of Sacha Modolo, who's in such great form. Yeah,
definitely. But as things have stood over the last few races, I think they're better off going with Modolo.
We shall see. That may be the plan. Could just be hiding it from us. As we go through Mater. Now, you and I were on this section of cobbles this morning, driving it, having a last look at it. What were your impressions, your final impressions of it? You said that they looked after them a little better.
Yeah, it almost looks like they've redone them and reset the stones. I mean, it's always been relatively nice through the town, but as soon as you come out of town, then it's gone quite rough quite quickly. Belisol riders come down quite hard.
That's not good. That is not good. And the Lotto rider in question is Jurgen Roelandt. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. This is the man who was so strong for them last year. This is the man who is leading their squad this week. They've had problems a week ago. They had Greipel down. They had Seberg down. Both of them out, and I'm afraid the way that is looking for Jurgen Roelandt, that could well be it. We shall see. He's not looking good.
No, he's not looking good. I don't
looks like it could be a collarbone.
Yeah, certainly something broken, that's for sure.
Well, Jurgen Roelandt in the important group with Cancellara and Sagan last year. He was there on the Paterberg. The Swiss then left them both for dead. Roelandt came in with Sagan, ended up on the podium. Before today, he was saying he could stay there. We didn't manage to see the fall itself, but that's the result of it, and I'm afraid that Roelandt looks in trouble. Aiming for the podium, not feeling good at the minute.
No, that's race over.
And in fact, they're just making sure he's as comfortable as possible before they can get him some assistance. So bad news for Jurgen Roelandt. What have Lotto Belisson done to deserve this bad luck this week? Because, of course, that's half the team out, with Roelandt going there. Greipel last week, who, remember, 12 months ago, rode the best Flanders of his career. He was so strong. He looked in a great position to win Gent-Wevelgem. He went down with 6 kilometres to go. You'd have favoured him, the best sprinter in the pack. The train was doing great. Marcel Seberg went down, and he's had to miss this race for the first time in his career. It's just not their week at the minute.
No, it certainly isn't, and it's a shame because usually there's Tour of Flanders is a big battle between the two big Belgian teams, and Omega Pharma Quickstep and Lotto Belisol, and at the moment the Lotto are losing out in a big way.
Jongens, laat ook die mannen van Jan ermee werken, hè. Niet te veel op de voorgrond.
Just saying that, please let the other guys from the other teams do a bit of work as well. You're doing an awful lot on the front right now, so let some other teams do a bit of work.
Well, they've been drilling it, Omega Pharma Quickstep. They have the resources. We've talked about that at great length already. The gap now is the lowest it has been. 3 minutes and 59 seconds. 123.3 kilometres remain. Kazakh team today, not one of the most fancied teams, but they've got a couple of riders who could jump out. Borut Busic, Francesco Gavazzi.
Yeah.
Busic in particular, the Slovenian's been going brilliantly in the last few weeks.
Yeah, he certainly has been going strong. So, like you said, it's not the... they also got... I mean, Gavazzi, they got Grivko in here as well. Grivko is certainly a strong enough rider, but unfortunately not the strongest team.
Roman Zangler in the red and white with a yellow helmet. Belgian rider riding for the French team Cofidis. He strings them out onto the Paderstraat. Paderstraat is the fourth of the 6 classified flat cobble sections today. This one is 2.3 kilometres long.
Yeah, it's flat for the first part of it, and then you turn up where they are now, and it's a bit of a uphill drag, and then you turn right, and it continues to be a bit of a false flat So it's not an easy section.
Oh dear,
big
oh dear,
crash.
this is a big one. A big crash, and if you're not right up the front, you're in trouble already. Riders spread all over the place. The road as thin as they can come round here, and there are riders from just about every team affected here. Pick up your bikes, pick up yourself if you can, but I'm afraid there are 1 or 2 riders who don't look like they are getting up. And one of them, it looked like Stein de Volder.
I was just about to say.
Stein de Volder down, and he's the man not getting up. Big problems there for Trek Factory Racing. Oh,
de Volder
dear,
came
oh dear.
in fast from behind there as well, so that was not good.
And de Volder's down. De Volder with problems. The photographs are being taken. The good thing is he's up on his bike, but Magnus, how's that going to affect him?
Well, it depends on if he can get back on quickly here now and get back into the race, but certainly it's not looking good.
NetApp Enduro rider with problems as well, looking down at his wrist. We've had 3 NetApp Enduro riders involved. One from Wanty as well, and here we go, look around. Cannondale finds you can breathe a sigh of relief, but Peter Sagan not involved in that one. Heart-stopping moment or two. Oscar Gatto was involved, I think. So Stein de Volder there. So the 2 second-team players from 2 of the biggest teams in this race affected.
Yeah.
And we remain to see, or it remains to be seen, pardon me, how that affects Stein de Volder's chances, because a lot of people saying that he was going well. He looked great in Gent-Wevelgem last week. He put a big dig in. He didn't look to be too physically affected. He looked okay. Let's see how it happened.
Just one of the riders gone too fast into the corners. A few riders then panicking, and that's just causing...
NetApp Enduro rider also went down. You have to say that de Volder was a long way back there, Magnus.
Yeah, he was, and clearly not paying attention to what was happening in front of him, because he certainly had enough time to slow down.
Well, that's one obvious reason why I have to be out in the front. Is it the only reason, Magnus? Is that why positioning is so important? Is it that simple?
It is that simple. It is that simple.
Now then, de Volder doesn't look to have any help. He's going to put his hand up. Wants a quick chat with the team car, perhaps, but maybe a little magic spanner.
Oh, he's lost a bottle as well, so obviously want to try and get another drink.
Oh, it was his DS as well, who was asking and reminding his team to drink well. And it could be quite a sticky bottle, this next one that's given to him, let's say.
That's very possible. As the peloton turns on to the Pas de Strat, then.
Omega Pharma Quick-Step leading as they have been throughout this race so far. Certainly not unexpected, given the big up we gave them, and of course the big team they have. All the pressure on them.
And how well they've been performing this whole year. I mean, that they haven't. I think it was only at Newsblad when they really missed out and missed out bad. And since they had that talking to that night, they have basically just taken every single race by the scruff of the neck and put 2, 3, 4, 5 riders in the breakaways and the final breakaways as well. So they've made a selection with such a big number of riders, and that you know that's why they've ended up winning so many races as well.
I think the best example of that came back in Kuurne-Brussel-Kuurne. It was a 5 or 6 man group, and 3/4 of that group were all Omega Pharma Quick-Step riders. Tom Bonen basically handed the victory on a play. Yeah,
more or less, yeah.
Belkin were involved in that group on that day, as was Seth Van Marke. 3 minutes and 34 with 108 kilometers to go. So much still to happen here.
Yeah, still a bit of chasing to be done as well, because there's obviously a split in the peloton where that crash happened. So there's an awful large group that are trying to get themselves back onto to these guys up near the front here. But again, I cannot stress enough how important it is to spend that energy in a big way to get yourself onto the sections, and then you can basically just ride tempo and recover, and not you got all the choices of road in front of you as well, so you don't really have to panic about you know, when you're sitting up near the front here. The road is wide open in front of you, and you can choose your line and just have that calmness all the time. So
you can ride in the gutter.
You can ride in the gutter if you want to, and if that's not right, like you see Tom Bonen just riding a little bit out of the gutter, that's a sign of a man who's got good legs, because when you got that little bit extra, you tend to just, okay, I'll just sit a little bit, half a metre out in the road here now. I'll still get a little bit of draft from my teammate in front of me, but I'm not taking the risk of riding in the gutter and not seeing where I'm going. And should anything happen in front of me, then I got more time to, and it's easier for me to manoeuvre out of it.
the superstars from the Megaformer Quick-Step. 75 Ks exactly to go. It's the 98th Tour of Flanders. This is the race of the people here. They want attacking racing, they've had it, and they've had certainly plenty of action as well. A little too much for some of the riders' liking. Oh dear, we've had a rider in the ditch. It is problems for BMC, and the BMC rider in question this time is Sylvain Dillier. He's a neo-pro this year, but he's a rider who really has had a lot of people talking about his possibilities to be a big, big name in this sport.
And then comes a big attack by his teammate at the same time.
BMC.
Shah.
With Michael Scher, who is the Swiss champion. This is the moment it happened, and it was followed fairly quickly.
Yeah, at least he didn't come off the bike too badly, so just a bit of an unfortunate incident to have to stop right then.
Sylvain Dillier, who actually won a stage back in Canada, in the Tour of Alberta last year as a stagiaire, and that secured his contract. Not a bad way to start your career.
No, that's a good way if you're ever going to do
now,
a win. Get
Isayev, Russian champion, going to have a go. And this is where the tactics start for Christoph and Paolini. We've seen Ajay Dessert have a go, Katusha have a go,
big reaction
and now
by
Magnus.
BMC.
This is the peloton involved. BMC, as you say, getting involved themselves.
It looked like Manuel Coinciato who went after him.
This is what's happening at the back. Vladimir Gusev is there. And the number 181 is Marco Bandiera for Androni Giocattoli. So we're in the second feed zone of the day. And this is where Fabian Cancellara came a cropper just after this point a couple of years ago.
Yeah, there's a few bollards here as well, which tends to be a bit of a problem because obviously the masseurs and the people at the feed zone, they tend to step out into the road, and then you got on the other side, you can see here all these green bollards, and it's just a quick lapse of concentration. You end up clipping one of those, and that's the end of your day.
Luca Paolini, very, very, very well positioned at the front. It's Vladimir Gusev here at the back. 113 for Movistar is Imanol Erviti. He's the road captain of the Spanish team. He's a man who knows all about the racing along the world. Alex Dowsett, we saw trying to get in the break. He didn't get involved today. I'll tell you what, we must mention Fran Ventoso. I'm not sure if you've seen the pictures on Twitter this week. He has been down. He's had some of the worst leg road rash that I've seen.
Yeah.
There's hardly any skin left on his leg. They were red raw, the poor thing. But like a real man, he's taken the start today, and he is riding this race. So wherever he finishes the Spanish sprinter, Fran Ventoso, hat off to you, because it takes a lot of fortitude to take the start when you're in such pain. I can't imagine he slept much this week.
No, probably not. It did look pretty horrible. But then again, bike riders are made of a different sort of material than most people, I think. You know, they tend to ride with broken bones and skin missing everywhere. So a bit of crosswind going on here after the feed zone as well on this main road. You can see all the guys kind of scrapping around trying to get into the onto the last millimetre of road to get any kind of little bit of shelter from the rider in front of them. And it's never an easy thing.
Here's Godin in front. Remember, he was signed from Europe Car as well.
Yeah, Popovic has been taken to hospital after in Zottegem after his crash on the Paddestraat. Just had information from Race Radio.
Now, Quick-Step. They've seen the crosswinds and they've seen this opportunity here. Maybe a chance to shed a couple out the back.
Yeah, definitely. This is a good opportunity to put a little bit of pressure on it, just to see whether you can thin it. And look at that, it snapped the peloton in half.
It's made a great impression. Quick-Step know what they're doing. They certainly know how to ride in this area. Good timing as well. Yeah,
very good timing as well. But we are also on our way down towards Canarienburg, and this is a dangerous section, dangerous entrance. We've seen a couple of crashes here in Köln, Brussels. Köln definitely was a big crash. Turn right off the main road. You're coming into it at 75 kilometers an hour, and you turn onto a very narrow section of road and then start to climb. So you need to be right near the front.
Canarienburg, it is our penultimate non-cobbled climb. So after this, we're back on the cobbles, we're back towards the Oud-Quaremont, and we've seen the first attacks at the peloton behind, we've seen the peloton splitting. The party's going to start now, and if you're not at it, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, we really haven't got far to go now until the real racing is going to start with the next time going up the Eau de Quarmont.
Well, it's inside the last 60k when you really have to be alert, because it is berg after berg after berg, cobbles after cobbles after cobbles, and you can imagine that fight for positioning is going to become even more intense. There's going to be more elbows flying, and look at this all bunched up at the front.
Yeah, this is the problem coming into the Kanarienberg every single year. It's the same stuff, and looks like David Miller just getting onto the grass riding there a little bit.
Look at the positioning of Peder Sagan. That is where Zanata wants him at the minute, right in front of the top 20. But I feel, as Magnus has said, this is a funny one. He's on the outside taking it here. If you're on the inside and you get boxed in, there's going to be problems.
Yeah, it's always difficult to know where to put yourself. I can also see Bradley Wiggins right down the very back of that group here on your left-hand side in your picture right now, and not the best place to hang out, really.
We go out the back then. We saw Nico Maas towards the back as well. This is the head of the race, right at the top of the Kanarienberg here. And this is Daryl Impey leading them up. Stig Brooks behind him in the red and white for Katusha. We can see Alexander Kuczynski just behind him. BMC in the red and black. Taylor Finney of the USA. And here we go. It's attack time yet again. Quinziato having a go, and he's been followed very quickly as well.
By Trentino.
And Matteo Trentin. Trentini's a big rider from Italy. Strong rider. Fast guy as well. And this is what we expected them to have to do all day. Marshal things. The two Italians have gone. Trentin on the left. Moves just into the front now, and here we go. Well, this is interesting. Not really content with keeping his powder dry. It is Bernie Eisel who has gone.
Well, this is a good move for, if these three riders can get away, then when the big favourites make their move, and I'm still counting Geraint Thomas into the favourites of this race. When they go and if they bridge up to these riders, and all of a sudden they got a teammate in there, and that helps an awful lot with whatever you set up to do. So good move by Bernie to get himself in there as well, and certainly a strong ride.
Trentin is the rider at the front. Italian rider just behind him is compatriot riding for the American/Swiss team, BMC, Manuel Quinziato. And then it's the Austrian riding for the British Team Sky in the blue and black right at the back of this trio, doing the work to get away. And look at the difference they've made of the break already. Yeah. A quick minute has been taken out of the gap.
Yeah, it definitely gets taken out very quickly, but looking at Daryl Impey was still setting a strong pace, and it just shows how fast these guys have been going up this climb here. And it's a tough climb, this one, because it gets very steep right at the beginning of the climb, and then it flattens out a little bit, and then it gets steep up towards the top again.
Flick of the arm from Trentin there. Bernie Eisel not coming through at the minute to do any work. He's just hanging and sitting on the back.
They wouldn't really expect that from me either, because if you bridge a gap to a breakaway, then certainly if you do it on the climb, you're not really expected to take a turn. And certainly they would have looked around, seen it was Bernie, and gone, look, he would have gone absolutely into the deepest part of the red on the rev counter as he possibly can to get himself in there. And as soon as he gets to settle down a little bit on the flat here now, Bernie will start coming through and taking some big turns, and they know he's a good man to have with him.
He's a hard worker. He's an experienced man. We've talked about his qualities early on in this race, and he is there up the front. What comes with 55 kilometres to go. Second time up, what the three-time winner Johan Museo describes as his favourite hill. It's made for somebody with a big engine, a big motor, who can just continue pedalling that strong, powerful gear, and who can just shed people out the back. It's a gradual thing up the Eau de Quarmont.
Yeah, it certainly is. Like I said earlier, it's a question of when you do the steep part of Eau de Quarmont, just saving your legs as much as you can, and as soon as you get up into another big crash here.
And it's a lotto, man. Francis de Jure involved, as our Top Sport Vlaanderen. That looks nasty. Oh no, into a lamppost. We hope there's some movement down there. Saichev is down, the Russian champion. The man getting to his feet is from NetApp. He is Andreas Schillinger. And I'm afraid there's one more rider down there who we are yet to identify. One NetApp, which is Schillinger. One Katusha rider. I have a feeling that it might be another NetApp rider down there. Or is it Francis de Jure? It's a Francis de Jure rider. We wait to find out the ID of that rider. Thankfully, there's movement there, but Isaichev is hurt. Isaichev is hurt. He's the man in the Russian national champions jersey, and the way he is, I do not think he will be moving too much. Francis Desjeux, well, he's got an aero helmet on. Didn't look to be Arnaud Demar to me. Certainly didn't look to be his face, or Mathieu Ladagnou, but we shall wait. Wait to get official confirmation. Not nice.
No, definitely not nice.
Time to go back on board the cars.
Interesting.
Okay, now we have
now,
three chasers with Matteo Trentin inside, also one of BMC and one of Sky. Now the other teams need to work. Perfect situation. 1 minute and 10.
So an update for all those chasing behind. Yeah. We've seen the stream of Omega Pharma Quick-Step riders. That's good news, as he says.
Certainly very good news, yes. But also good news for BMC, because Taylor Finney being up there and Manuel Quinziato on his way up to Taylor as well. So that'll be a strong showing for BMC when they get together.
We're told that Jens de Bussere was involved in that crash. He was the rider to get up straight on his bike again for Lotto. So, Cannondale to work.
Yeah, Cannondale will certainly have to work now, and you know, it's up to them, Trek, and we haven't seen an awful lot of Tinkoff Saxo, but they're starting to show their faces a little bit here now. Still an awful lot of teams, so haven't got anyone up there who really need to make sure that they contribute to the work.
Well, I'm thinking Francis Desjeux as well. Certainly they will have to take stock and see whoever was in that crash there, and then see what they're going to do. Locking up the Francis Desjeux riders who are up to the front, well, we can see David Boucher is there, the Belgian. Mathieu Ladagnou still look to be there for me as well. Chalingi with a puncture. Back wheel. It was spotted nice and quickly by his team car. Remember, and there's a bit of a lull here before the older Quaremont as well.
Yeah. Although saying a bit of a lull, it's certainly not lacking any kind of action.
No, I mean, a lull as far as the Tour of Flanders is concerned, as far as you can get a lull.
Everything is relative, as we say, right?
It certainly is today. Great to see. It's been a great watch so far, and the time has absolutely flown by. Here's Stein de Volder. Trek rider there. Trek rider ready to do the business. He's fallen once today. You can see the mark, and you can see that big, huge egg on his left elbow. It's blown up, it's swollen, it's looking pretty nasty.
Yeah, but I think by now he'll be back into the racing of it, and yes, he certainly won't feel nice in the morning, and he might have to go and get that checked out. But at this point in time, he won't care of it. The adrenaline and the actual task at hand will be far more important to him than any little bit of pain that he might get from his elbow.
It's the Ter Hengst windmill. Is Jens de Bussere making his way back to the back of the peloton? He hasn't lost too much ground. Who's involved in that crash, and with no news yet of the other Francis Desjeux rider. A lot of work to be done by the likes of Alan Marangoni and Cannondale today.
And still Omega Pharma Quick-Step in second wheel there, kind of just making sure that one man is taking a long turn on the front, and with that then getting, you know, basically forcing Cannondale to almost lose one rider. So as soon as if they leave him on the front for too long, then, you know, they'll burn his legs out completely.
Edvald Bossenhagen next to his compatriot, former and current Norwegian champion. On with more riders down. MTN Quebecer and 1T with riders on the deck. The man from the African team looks in trouble. It's Martin Reimer, German rider down, and I'm afraid he looks in pain. Oh dear. And I think that is the end of him today.
Yeah, and that's a potential collarbone that's gone, so that's it for a couple of weeks. 2
for 2 is Jean-Pierre Drucker, Luxembourg sprinter. He's an interesting guy if he can hang on towards the end, but I'm afraid he has a problem, and he is waiting a long time for his team car here.
Yeah, that bike isn't going very far, that's for sure. Oh, he might be gathering himself again. Yeah, back on the bike, see what happens.
Staying the Volder at the back. Oh, and it was a little silly, all bunched up. That was the result of the crash that we were seeing in front.
Yep.
The problem for the rider who was behind from Europcar was Antoine Duchesne, who's the Canadian rider. Martin Reimer down there for MTN Quebec. Alain Marangoni still working hard. We haven't seen much of Oscar Gatto yet, which is good news for Sagan. Means he's fresh, means he's ready, and means he can come into play, perhaps with one of those De Volder-style counter-attacks we were talking about when we're thinking about the tactics a little later on.
Yeah, and looking at BMC, certainly moving up towards the front there as well. With they still got the, two very strong cards in their lineup, and. It's nice to see now, obviously, Taylor Finney still out the front, still looking very strong, probably looking the freshest out of all of them, together with Kocinski, I'd say. And obviously, Quinziato on his way back up there.
Quinziato is such a strong rider. Hard worker.
Class act.
He's an Italian who actually lives in Spain, lives and trains in Madrid. He's a big fan of the Spanish capital, likes the mountains and hills around there. Of course, means that in the winter he has to head out a lot of the time to warmer weather training. It gets very, very cold and snowy in Madrid, but he lives over there and enjoys it. A few Italian riders down the years have gone to live in Spain. Garzelio, I think, is still over there as well. Now then, problems.
Is married to a Spanish woman as well, so
that helps. Europcar having all sorts of problems.
So Luca Paolini on his way back up.
Paolini needs to make sure he's in the right place.
Yeah, I think that was more of a stop out of a choice rather than any mechanical problems or anything like that.
Jimmy Goulvent, big guy on a bike. Former rider for Sao Soya-Sun, team that folded at the end of the year. Trek, hard work. He said that they had a chase, and they will. Remember, working hard for them today, they've got the likes of Markel Irizar working hard. There's so much still to come. Paterberg here, 11th climb of the day. There's 6 more hills left, and only one of them isn't cobbled. Well,
De Volder is back on his bike.
Wow.
Man made out of steel.
That is very special, because I'm afraid once we saw him down, he was hardly moving, holding his arm as if he had done a collarbone. Whatever he's done, he has to be saluted. That is a ride and a half. Daniele Benati losing ground for Tinkoff Saxo.
Yeah, he was caught up in that crash as well, so that's not good. Tor Hushovd is going backwards here.
Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Now, this was the crash again, Maggie. Dissect this if you can. Somebody's stopping for a comfort break.
Stopping for a comfort break. And De Volder clips the rider on. Oh, that's not good. Bad moments, bad place to stop for a wheel change, though.
Well, I mean, the way De Volder looks on the ground there, you really wouldn't think he'd be getting up against that. No. Whatever he does in this race, hand off to him.
I think he's just landed on his on the arm that he crashed on earlier, so that would have just added insult to injury already.
Paterberg done then. And the next climb comes in 5 kilometers time, and it's the Koppenberg.
Yeah, Koppenberg coming up, and this has got to be one of the most difficult climbs there is to ride in any category, as far as I'm concerned anyway, because even if it's dry, it's under trees, so it's still slippery, and if you lose a little bit of momentum, it's just that steep that you can't actually build any speed back up again. So you have to hit it right. You have to have a clear road in front of you, and because of the cobblestones as well, and you're going that slowly up them, so the cobblestones tends to sort of change direction of your bike for you, and with that, I think the Astana rider here has just punctured on his front wheel. Yes, he has. All the riders still near the front, and Ebel Bosenhagen for Sky right up there as well, so that's good. He's still in there. So a bit of chase for position coming up again. And I don't think we can say it enough times, really. It is just all about positioning in this race. Staying clear of the crashes, but that's also down to positioning. We've seen that in the front, the group here has split up because of that crash. very limited number of riders left in the front end of it, and a big gap back. Big gap back. This is a good selection for the race.
Welsh flag there, cheering on Geraint Thomas.
Unfortunately, this selection happened because of that crash with Steen de Volder rather than a big move.
Steen de Volder just cannot stay off the ground at the minute.
Unfortunately not, no.
So, we collect our thoughts again. The riders try to do the same. Be nice to nip back to the team goals and see what chaos is going on there at the moment.
Yeah, Marcus Bergard has just clipped off the front there now, just trying to put a bit more pressure onto the peloton. They've still got Taylor Phinney up there as well, but if Bergard can get across, it certainly wouldn't be a bad thing. This road here leading in towards the Koppenberg is certainly not easy. It kind of drags a little bit, and you're kind of coming into the Koppenberg with heavy legs already, and then you turn right onto the and it's on cobblestones that you turn, and then onto the climb itself, and it is such a hard climb to ride.
Koppenberg then, slopes of up to 22%, as I said. It's a legendary part of the race ever since its first year.
I think we need to rephrase that. Walls of up to 22% because it is virtually
it's a moor,
yeah.
as it's described. Just don't ask Freddie Martins about this hill, though. He famously lost an addition to Roger de Vleming here. He was disqualified for a bike change back in the day.
Here we go, Omega Pharma straight onto the front there with all the manpower that they have.
And look at it. It is extremely powerful. Look at the man's second wheel there, Steen van den Berg. He's pretty usually used as a main man to try and form an early counter-attack. He likes to go early.
Yeah.
But he's shielding the men who are Tom Bonen and Nicky Terpstra.
Sagan very prominent near the wheels of the Omega Pharma Quickstep riders on the right-hand side as well. Degenkolb just poking his face out there as well.
Zdeněk Štýbar on the right-hand side. Quality group here.
Yeah, all the main players who made these selections, apart from maybe Benate, then who were kind of lost in the pre-talks really, but certainly a man who, you know, would have been certainly an outsider.
And he's a quick guy as well. You know, he started his life as a pure sprinter, let's say.
Yeah.
Now this is the chasing group. Here we go. 3 Sky Riders in there. Movistar man as well. 2 from BMC trying to get involved. Now then, Lampre jersey at the back. Pipo Pozzato? We shall see. 46.2 Ks to go, and we are heading to the Koppenberg. Beast of a climb, feared by many, and first climb in this race back in 1976. It was, again, a local resident who called the organisers, who said, this climb's here, come and have a look at it, I think it could be special. And ever since, its name has been written into history books and folklore in this part of the world. You can see it from a long way off. We saw it yesterday from the A-Road, if you will. Went right past it, all lit up with the sponsors' names on the side, waiting to be ridden. Of course, 16,000 went over it yesterday. This is all about the pro peloton, and look at Omega Pharma Quickstep and their positioning. Yeah,
Cancellara right up there next to Tom Bonen as well, with Sagan on his wheels. So all the main players are very aware of this race, this particular climb, and you need to ride it in the first 4 or 5 riders. After that, it's all happening, and even if you bump handlebars with someone on this climb, it's likely to throw you off enough to lose all the momentum, and you lose all the traction and basically struggle. And I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen people run up this climb. I've run up it myself with, you know, cyclocross style bike on my back.
Eddie Merckx, he had to do it the first year it was in the race.
Exactly. Here we go then.
It's time for the Koppenberg. Always usually too far away from the end, but this year 45 Ks from the line. It might have a bigger say this year. We shall see. 3 guys onto it quickly. Look at how narrow it is up there. Here we go. Van Marke has a go. He's shown his cards and he's being followed
by Degenkolb, who's just been off the back.
Well,
obviously struggling a little bit with the climb, so he figured it might be better off just getting out front. If I can get a bit of a gap and until the next climb, then that's not going to be a bad thing at all. And obviously the next climb coming.
Oh, 2 riders who were quickly at the back, out the front there as well, and here we go. Oh, the Quaremont isn't far away.
It's not far away at all.
A good group still together here. 2 in the front and 25 seconds the difference. Van Avermaet and Van den Berg. what sort of gap do these two need to stay away if they get to Uruquaramon? 2 climbs to go, remember.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how they ride, if they go flat out in the group back here, then yeah, they'll need a good minute. But you've got to remember, you've got Pantersburg as well, so last bit of drinks there for Pete Sagan.
Remember, the bar is very close to closing. 26 Ks to go, no drinking, no feeding in the last 20 Ks, and here we go, it's blown up once more. Van Marke, he's obviously chosen this moment as his moment.
That's big commitment. Cancellara then trying to close him back down. But look at that, it's Nicky Terpstra that's gone with Bjorn Leukemans.
Terpstra, Leukemans looks behind. Terpstra just takes the foot off the gas for the minute to see what damage he's done. You said he looked fresh, he's shown it here. And well, with those 3 in the group there, the other 2 up the road, no wonder Fabian Cancellara wants to chase. Sagan sitting on the back just because he was probably looking a little dodgy. Bonin sits there because he can.
Yeah, and I think that was a smart move by Pete Sagan as well, getting him off the front, down the back, getting the drink, and with that, you know, causing a few other riders to take the majority of the work as well. So that's a bit of a tactical, clever sort of situation as such. And Greg van Avermaet still on the front. Vandenberg will not touch the wind at all at any point.
So Van Avermaet could be leaving his chances of a Flanders win on the road here. He was very bold, he went for it. This is his leadership. Remember, we've seen him do this lots of times, but as a co-leader. Today he's the number 1. Nobody else from his team left in with a shot in the race, and he went with well over 30 Ks to go. Magnus Bagstad next to me was shaking his head as soon as he went. He said it was too early. We've seen that it might be the case. They have 28 seconds at the minute, but a very much fresher Stein Vandenberg just behind him.
Yeah, that's... I don't know. He's going to have to be so committed to this now, Greg van Avermaet, and be so sure of himself that he can Vandenberg up the climbs and get rid of him, because if he's going to sit on the front like that, he won't have much left in the sprint.
Van Marke rests up at the back, remember. Second in Kuurne-Brussel-Kuurne. There's a brief cessation. Remember, almost 20 Ks to go. Everybody wants a drink here. Everybody wants food. This is the last feeding time, because afterwards, I'm afraid it's an illegal feed, and there's a big fine.
Yeah, it's quite a big fine for... It's an expensive drink as such.
Oh yeah,
if you know what I mean.
More than a double, let's say.
Yeah, definitely. But this is turning out to be one of those days where the big guns are sort of cancelling each other out. Omega Pharma obviously in a very good position, although maybe not the safest bet in the world up front, but still a very, very strong position in that Greg van Avermaet's going to ride himself into the ground. So I'd almost think that Vandenberg can actually attack and solo into the finish at a later stage of this stick. But it's causing, you know, Peter Sagan, Cancellara, Van Marke, everyone to ride, and
here we go, Leukemans right at the back again with Bossenhagen. This is Van Marke just recovering from his effort. Watch him, and watch Minard, because Minard's the latest to have a dig. What an improved rider in this style of racing, Sebastian Minard. Whatever he does today, hat off to him. Yeah,
definitely, but the race has changed quite a lot, and he's become that much stronger, and Boonen reacts then to Devaney's going, and Sepp Van Mark.
Sepp Van Mark then, he was waiting, he was ready, just taking on a drink and a bit of food. And Van Mark has been the eternal Neely man recently. 5th place, 4th place, 2nd in Kuurne. Biggest race he's won so far, Omloop Pit Nieuwsblad, and often that is a race that usually leads to bigger things. Well, there was a nasty moment of slip of a gear there for John Degenkolb. Sagan wants something else before the bar shuts. The last orders have been wrong.
Yeah.
Again, a little look round. 28 seconds, the gap is holding for Vandenberg and Van Avermaet. And now then, this is developing up the front with Edvald Bossenhagen. Sagan's going to follow this one. Cancellara still on the left-hand side in the black.
The interesting thing is, though, what is going to be Omega Pharma's tactics? What are they happy with? Which riders to go with the next couple of moves? And, you know, Stibar having a go there with Bose and Hagen. Is that the right thing for them, or is that not right thing? Quite a lot of different sort of opportunities and possibilities.
Vandenberg still sits on the wheel of Van Avermaet. Van Avermaet's still looking okay, but you have to wonder. The difference in freshness and energy must be pretty big now.
Yeah, he's definitely going strong, there's no doubt about that. But this descent down towards Eau de Quiremont, you give him a little bit of a time to recover, but he's flicking his elbow, and Vandenberg is pulling the brakes. Gives him an opportunity. There's quite a long descent and quite a fast descent, so he can't really pedal, and he's still looking for him to come through, but it's just not going to happen today.
Well, all the looking round in that group behind has meant that the third group, who we haven't seen for a good 5 or 10 minutes on the shot, are now making their way back. The likes of Geraint Thomas we've seen, Pipo Pozzato. Could be a very, very interesting finale here. What we do expect, though, is there to be breaking point at Eau de Quiremont and Paterberg. This is Bjorn Leukerent's.
The race is far from over yet, I can pretty much guarantee that.
Well, if you run out of energy on the Paterberg, you come to a standstill.
Yeah. Oh.
Now then, first turn was done by Vandenberg there.
Yeah, but you can see there was a few well-chosen words coming from Greg Van Avermaet there, saying you know, at least do your turn properly. Look at this, Paolini.
Wow, what an effort.
Interesting move.
What an effort. And he had to make it because, remember, Alexander Kristoff was no longer present. Luca Paolini, if he can sit on here, if he gets away, there might not be many who can follow.
But
another great ride.
Big hats off for making that bridge across there. And where are there any more riders? Well, they're all chasing back on here. They're all coming quite quickly. Who's left in this group then?
NT and Quebecer have a rider. We've seen Pipo Pozzato in there. Zico Waitens, I think, for Tour of Flanders.
Yeah, 2 or 3 Cannondale riders in there as well, so that's going to be good for Pete Sagan.
Well, you'd think that Oscar Gatto will be there.
Can they do anything for him on the Quiremont though?
Or is it going to be Oscar Gatto a chance?
Yeah.
We haven't seen him doing too much work today.
Certainly not. Geraint Thomas coming back in as well.
A couple of Trek riders as well, which is helpful for...
But look at Paolini, he's just gone straight through that group and just gone out the front.
And Paolini is off. Paolini being chased down by the couple of Lotto jerseys that got themselves into this group.
Yeah, best move here now for the Cannondale riders would be get on the front, drive this as hard as they can, right into the bottom of the Eau de Quiremont. Should they not have the legs to go up the Quiremont, at least they've brought back as much time as they possibly can before they actually start doing the climb.
Into the final 20 kilometres, and Luca Paolini's on the prowl. This is exciting. This has been a huge race all day long. And if Luca Paolini's to pull this off, we're talking about a fantastic exploit. He bridged the gap, said, no thanks, I'm not hanging around with you. Straight through, and let's look at that little camera icon because it's time to go back to the cars.
Subito passiamo subito davanti e si tira subito, Si passa davanti e si tira subito.
Exactly what Magnus Bagstad was saying.
La nostra corsa di per qualcuno finisce in piede del Quiremont. Ale, questi 2 chilometri a tutta. Una volata.
There you go. 2 kilometres on full gas. He wants a sprint. Does Stefano
Tira
Zanata.
volata, that means basically pull as a leader for a sprint. So everything you got, just empty the tank to the bottom of the Eau de Quiremont. There's nothing to be left in there. And whatever you do after that doesn't matter. But these guys need to be brought back as close as they can.
Vandenberg and Van Avermaet.
Vandenberg is just basically going to the front and not doing much at all.
Right, we're approaching Eau de Quiremont for the third and final time. If you're a quick step DS now, if you're Wilfred Peters, how do you assess the latest change? Are you still strong?
Well, you're still in a strong position, but obviously it's changed the dynamics a little bit of the race. And watching this man coming up here, Bjorn Leukermans,
another good ride.
Yeah, he's a strong man and he can climb very well. But yeah, definitely pressure's being put on there.
I was going to say Liquigas then, but here at Cannondale.
Ilya Kaise in there as well, then Pipo Pozzato in second wheel.
Pozzato perhaps thinking of his move. There's a quick glance a little further to the left of Geraint Thomas, who's making his way to the front.
And remember, Geraint did a massive move in this one in the E3 prize in Harelbeke a couple of weeks ago.
It's the move that set up the final group, wasn't it?
It was. And he made it over the top on the flat as well. So can he get up this now? Has he got the legs left? Because we've got to remember, some riders don't fare very well on the super steep climbs as the Koppenberg, and that's where they kind of ended up on the back foot. That was basically the damage that was being done there for a long period, until now basically, and it's just regrouped and just in time for the Eau de Quarmont.
Oh, look at that, great pace being done. Pozzato knows, of course, as an Italian, he'll have heard the conversations going on quickly. He got on the wheel, he's there at the front, and Case is just behind him.
And he's also ridden for the same sport director, so he knows exactly what's about to happen. Quick bottle for Peter Sagan there, dropped off by one of his teammates.
Van Marke again close to the front. Marcus Burkhardt's made it to the front as well, looking very, very strong. And again, he's the sort of guy that on the Eau de Quarmont will fancy his chances, because he likes to push a big gear, he's got a good engine. And here we are, penultimate climb of the day for Stijn van den Berg in the white and black in the back of those two riders there. The man at the front is Greg van Avermaet. What's he got left? Both of them on the tops. Maximum of 11.6%, but it's a war of attrition, this one, Maggie.
But I would almost do to the point where Van den Berg just drops off the back 10 meters, winds it up and slingshots you know, up to them and past them. Otherwise, he's not going to have enough speed to get past them, really.
Here we go. The looking around has started. Cancellara drifts to the left as they go under the 4 kilometre to go banner. A few others reach for energy gels. Surely now this is just mind games.
Yeah, if it makes you feel better, then why not? You know, it's at the end of the day, it's all going to come down to the mental strength. Who wants this the most, and who can go the deepest into the hurt locker, as we call it.
Tension, drama, excitement. We promised it would all be present. I can tell you, here at the finish line, there are rows and rows of people. We've seen that estimate of between 800,000 and 1 million people on the side of the road today, and it's all come down to 4 men. 30 seconds they have on those chasing behind. Quickly drops down every 100 metres or so now, because of the fact that they're just starting to think of the sprint.
Van den Berg is going.
And Van den Berg goes on the right-hand side, followed quickly by Van Avermaet. Cancellara behind, looking to try and close the gap. Is he going to give all he's got to do that?
Yeah,
Set Van Marke on the wheel.
Seated acceleration by Cancellara, but Cancellara is hurting.
And look at that, it's a real go from Van den Berg. Perhaps he knows he can have a go. They'll be shouting at him on the radio.
And it's reverse roles now, because Van Avermaet is on the wheel of Van den Berg. And I think Van Avermaet, if they seized it, got a little bit of a gap, and they have it.
Look at it. Look at the gap here. Cancellara sits up. Cancellara just takes off the pedals, and now Van Marke, if he wants to be involved here, has to go, surely.
He has to go. All that effort to get back onto these guys, and then nothing. Here we go.
Here he goes. Van Marke on the right-hand side. Cancellara on the back's going to hang on. At the minute, it's Van Avermaet who takes the turn at the front. The gap is closing. Cancellara at the minute is in recovery mode. Just hang on in there. 2.5 Ks to go. Van Avermaet turns around and says to Van den Berg, well, we could have the top 2 spots on the podium if we ride together here.
Yeah, Van Marke is doing a big turn though to close that gap, but that will have cost him. Cancellara needs to just take that last little bit now. Oh no.
Van Marke.
That is just a difference between a man who's got the cool and he's won this race before. He doesn't really need it. He's quite happy to sacrifice it.
And now it is Van den Berg who goes to the back. Surely another attack again. Now it's Cancellara who goes. He was bluffing. Cancellara on the left-hand side grits his teeth, decides he doesn't have enough. 2 Ks to go. It's so interesting. And look out for Van den Berg. Waits, ready to pounce.
I think Van den Berg is going to be dangerous here if he gets an opportunity to go again.
Looking round, and they all want to get him to the front. They all want to get him to the front. They're all thinking the same thing here, Maggie.
Keep an eye on that watch in the top-hand corner there as well, because
24 seconds for the minute. 10 has been shaved off in just a kilometre's time.
Yeah, and now it's going slow, so it's going to start ticking down quite quickly.
And surely the DSs behind are on it there, guys. They can see what's happening. They're on to get the chase on. I'll tell you, we won't have the world champion involved. Eddie Merckx lookalike won't be sprinting away here. He'll be doing his best to keep up on the bike path for the minute, though. With 1.3 kilometres to go in the Tour of Flanders. It's Cancellara at the front in black.
Perfect
it's Greg van Avermaet.
Perfect opportunity for Van den Berg to have a go here.
Van den Berg at the back waits. Van Marke in 3rd position as well.
Just back off a little bit more off the wheel, and then as soon as they do that move across the road and hit it.
24 seconds, a kilometre to go, 4 men swinging to the left and the right of the road. It's the Tour of Flanders 2014 that it's in play here. Cancellara on the left, winner last year, the man looking to win it for a third time, all the rest looking for their first win, and one of them is Vandenberg, who goes. This time they have to follow into the final 800 metres. Vandenberg is Omega Pharma Quick-Step's last hope. If they don't do it here, they really have blown it tactically. Van Avermaet, who's done so much work. Van Marke is a big shout by many people for this race. In the end, no Sagan, no Bonen. It's all down to Cancellara and a couple of other riders. And look behind, Christoph and, well, it's Nicky Terpstra with him.
500 metres to go.
500 metres then. They sit up, they go. Terpstra is desperately trying to pedal on behind. It might just be too late. We shall see. Almost to a standing stop here.
Yeah, who's gonna go first? Yeah. 300.
Everybody looking at each other, and whoever goes the next time, if they can keep it going, they've got the line.
You can't go before that. You've got to keep it to the line if you go now.
Cancellara on the left-hand side, and it will be him to launch it. Cancellara on the left. It is Van Avermaet in the red and black. Van Avermaet leading at the minute. Cancellara's there. Behind, waiting on the real set. Vandenberg won't have it, but it will be Cancellara. Third time for Spartacus. And that goes down as a very special win indeed. Fabian Cancellara with a superb win, and he joins that select group of riders to have won the Tour of Flanders on 3 occasions. It's his second in a row, and well, Omega Pharma Quick-Step left it all on the road. They were all against Fabian Cancellara, who seemed to have the world against him, but he still had it through to take the win. In the meantime, it's going to be Tom Bonen who's going to come in and be applauded very generously by his own supporters, and he'll come in ahead of Geraint Thomas just behind him. Bjorn Leukemans, and of course a very good ride from Sebastian Langeveld. But look at this, it's the scene we saw a year ago. This time though, he had to wait until the final 200 metres, Magnus.
What a finish of a race. And it's just little groups, drips and drabs coming in everywhere, but that was certainly an exciting bike race to watch.
Well, he had the power right at the end. We wondered when they were going to go. He waited to the last moment possible. Van Avermaet had it for a moment, but it was the power, the sustained power of Fabian Cancellara that did it. As we see Nicky Sorensen coming across the line, and the sprint later on. Peter Sagan is going to put his pride before anything, although it's John Degenkolb, I think, who comes ahead of him. This was it. Maggie, talk us through that final sprint. 300 metres to go there.
Well, Sepp van Marke is looking, he's making a few little moves and trying to force someone to go early, but no one's really reacting to it. And Cancellara then just keeping himself out there, just waiting, and then deciding to go. When he went, it was Van Marke didn't really have the jump, almost a little bit too big a gear to get the move going, and you can see straight away he didn't have it. Cancellara's just too strong for everyone. It's almost, if you look at Cancellara when he responds to the attacks, he does it seated down. It's almost like he's saving that one big hit out of the saddle for the final sprint. And wow, that means a lot to Cancellara. First big win of the year.
Well, he said he saved himself for the big days. He did. The next task for him, and the first question they're going to ask him is, can he do another double next week? Cancellara takes it from Greg Van Avermaet, Sepp van Marke and Stijn Vandenberg. Christoph, Terpstra, Bonen, Thomas, Leukemans and Langeveld making up your top 10. And look at that, 5 Belgians in the top 9, 3 in the top 4. Disappointing thing for them is the man on the top step from Switzerland.
Yeah, that is probably a little bit of a disappointment. I think more so the disappointment from Omega Pharma Quick-Step not really, you know, being able to pull it off after looking so strong for the majority of the race, not being able to pull that off and walk home with it. And Cancellara isolated for such a large period of the final part of the race, and still managed to get himself into the right move. And well, he created the move, really, didn't he? But yeah, absolutely awesome.
Well, the first Swiss to win this was Henry Suter back in 1923, and look at the disappointment from Van Marke. Yet again another podium place, yet again another oh-so-nearly moment, but look at that. It's time for a celebratory drink, and he deserves a beer or two, doesn't he? Cheers indeed. So Sepp van Marke another great ride from him. Third place in the Ronde van Vlaanderen. And Maggie, we're looking at a future winner there?
Yeah, I certainly think so. I mean, he's proven that last year was up there in Paris-Roubaix, and you know, this year Tour of Flanders. Certainly think he'll be a factor next weekend as well. Greg van Avermaet, great to see him back up on the podium, and although probably not that happy right now because he didn't win it, but still, a podium is a podium.
A podium is a podium, but this is going to be a very special podium for Fabian Cancellara. Cancellara from Switzerland, a winner in 2010, a winner in 2013, and the champion in 2014. He joins Achille Buys, Fiorenzo Magni, Eric Le Mans, Johan Museeuw, Tom Bonen as all the men to have won it on 3 occasions. He's up there with the very best, and this win was one of his very best. Fabian Cancellara, the King of Flanders for 2014. He wins the 98th edition of the Ronde.